intellectually I knew, oh, this is what evil is. This is what color evil is, or whatever, you know. This is how it feels to the finger. This is how it feels against my skin, you know. And I walked through the house and I found him sitting on a throne in a room. And he was just sitting there and he was looking at me. And it was all like the complete energy was of pure, unadulterated evil. And I sat next to him. And I just looked. I was just looking at him. And he was looking at me. And I had no agenda, I didn't know what was going to happen or anything. I was just sitting with him. And all of a sudden, he sent a feeling, an image, of a request of clemency. It took me by surprise. And as soon as he did that, I felt this huge rush of energy, chi, that was pure, unconditional love towards him. And it just infused him with that light. And it was just, whoa, you know, it's like, it was out of this world. And I was gone out of there. I was back in my body, and I went, whoa, what was that about? You know, what happened to him? And of course then the human part comes in and says, you know, how come that happened? You know, I would have killed him or whatever. Look at all the nasty things he did. And you know, I kind of went through that little time of human emotion or whatever.
Reacting as a human.
Yeah, reacting as a human for a split second. It was like a split second of, how can this be? You know, this person has done all this through thousands of years, and he's giving clemency and beautified, you know. But that's why the part of the part of judgment or human side or body cannot come into the equation when I do this work, because that would have destroyed this human, and it would have not done the work, which is to raise the level of vibration on the planet. And by taking that whole negative thing and turning it into light, it raises it a lot.
Yeah.
So job completed.
And humans have been judging each other for thousands of years, if not much longer, and it hasn't changed anything at all.
It hasn't changed a thing. And the most interesting thing, and this comes back to objective proof, it was subjective proof, but it was from somebody else. A friend of mine who's also a psychic, she called me with one of those dreams that she absolutely had to tell me. She emailed me, she didn't call me. She emailed me and she said, I've got to tell you this dream. I don't know what it's about, I don't know what it means, but I know I have to share it with you. She said that she had gone into a huge mansion, a big mansion, with myself and this other person who was a well-known psychic, a man. And we were walking around the mansion, and she said she's a feng shui expert. How do you pronounce that? Feng shui?
Feng shui.
Feng shui.
I believe.
Okay, so she's a feng shui expert. So she knows about energies in a house. When she goes into a house, she will read the energies with her psychic awareness and then make the changes to change that. She was walking around this house and she said it was squeaky clean. It was completely empty and clean, like there was no energies in it. And she could see where the paintings had been taken down from the walls and everything had been taken away. And one of the things that had happened was that when this thing had completed with this mansion and the person had been infused with light, it felt as though he had been given clemency and he had taken all his assets with him. And now she was relaying this dream about what was, you know, the conclusion of the other thing. So I kind of got my answer, you know.
Yes.
What happened? Yeah, there he was.
And so, just to summarize on that, this mansion that you visited, this was a real place. This wasn't kind of symbolic astral situation.
Right.
This was a real mansion in the physical universe, and he was really there in a body, sitting on his throne. And then astrally, or in some non-physical form, you then sat next to him, but he knew that you were there.
Yes.
As a human being in real time, he knew that you were there.
Oh yes.
Okay.
He was extremely aware. He knew, yes.
Mm-hmm. So that's an example, if I understand what you're saying, that just by being physically alongside that person and focusing all of your attention, earlier on you said 110% of your attention on this person, then that has some sort of a transformational effect through something that then operates through you.
Precisely, yes.
And there's nothing that you're adding, you're not thinking, you're not judging, you're not figuring it out.
No.
You're just acting as a lens.
Right. And the reason why it's necessary to do it that way is because to influence things on the planet, and especially with regards to human affairs, you need to be human, otherwise you're interfering. But as a human being, you can actually do things to influence and to interfere within humanity and within the collective. So it's like a little loop in the interference law, you know, it's like a clause that one can use to make things happen.
Yes. So what I hear you saying there then is that as a human being, you're positioning yourself and focusing yourself, and then you become this lens, position yourself in the right place, and then something operates through you.
Yes.
And your function is basically to be that lens, and to move that lens, and to time that lens according to your instructions.
Yes.
And that there's no personality or ego attached to this at all. It's just a function.
Right, it's just a function. And on the other side of that lens is the other being. And that being has to have a free will connection with me. I cannot force myself on somebody. Either negative, positive, whatever you want to call it, the color of their work here. I can't force that connection with somebody. There has to be a willingness on the other party to engage with me in some level.
When you would sit next to the girl on the park bench, would there be some kind of engagement there? Like hello or something, so that she acknowledges that you're there and it's okay to be there?
Right. You see, normally the agreement is at a higher level. So she would have agreed to have some sort of help at that moment. And she may have even have asked for help, prayed for help. And that help arrived.
Right. Yes. Yes,
but on a physical level, especially if I'm dealing with a light worker who's fully aware, I can only kind of make them know that I'm there, and then they have to invite. And then they have to ask, you know, or agree with the interaction.
Yes. Well, let's just take this as this is so wonderful, interviewing someone who's telepathic, because you know exactly what I'm going to ask you now. When you were given me as a target, okay. Telepathy doesn't work with a video camera. You actually have to say something. You were given my name. Is this right?
Right.
Bill
Sometimes, yeah.
Bill Ryan, just
No,
like
just
that.
Bill.
Bill.
Bill and Avalon.
Bill and Avalon.
Yeah.
And this didn't mean anything to you.
No, nothing. I'd never heard of you before. I'm sorry.
So,
but that often happens. I will get a name, and what normally happens is it'll take me weeks to find it. You know, to find the person or the relationship, because I get other clues as well. But with you, it's very quick. And normally, when I find somebody very quickly, it's because it's urgent. It's make or break somehow. I have no idea normally how, but sometimes I'm shown very graphically. And with you, I got Bill and Avalon. So I went on my computer, I put Bill Avalon, and your website came up. And your interview, the last interview you did, came up. So I joined your forum, and I put in a post that was meant to be a flag for you to see. That it was a post that had energy behind it, so that it wouldn't be missed. But then you had to actually contact me, because I couldn't, you know, go out of my way and like say I have to work with you, right?
yes. You had to wait for me to approach you.
Yes.
Which is exactly what I did.
Right. Yeah. I can actually say, look, I'm here. That's all I can do. Either by sending an email or a personal message or putting a post to say, I'm here. And then the other person has to say, I'd like to see you, I'd like to contact you, I'd like to talk with you.
Yes. So the way that it operated me was a perfect case study of how you always work.
Yes, it was. Yes. Yeah.
That is so astonishing.
Right.
And here we are. All right. And these assignments or missions or tasks, how many of these have you undertaken in your life?
It's impossible to say.
Hundreds? Thousands? How are we, a large?
Very large.
A very large number.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, some of them are tiny, you know. Some of them is just going somewhere and being somewhere, or saying something to somebody.
Just a little tiny thing that might
Right.
take a tiny part of one day.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
something else. I think you told me that there's some assignments that kind of go on
For years.
for a long time.
Yes, for years sometimes.
Do you have any understanding of why something would take a long time to resolve?
No, I've never looked at it. I've never had a curiosity of why something would be very quick and something wouldn't.
Because it's not your role to analyze anything.
Right. It is not my role to analyze it or be curious or try and connect the dots. That's done for me.
Yes. Are you curious, or do you sort of suppress your curiosity?
I'm really not.
You're really not
No.
curious?
No, it's just attention points. I mean, I have to have my focus on so many things that if I try to focus on curiosity as well, it's just, you know, you can only do so many things. But it's entertaining and it's fun when the proof comes through or the synchronicities come through that show why and hows and all the other pieces. Because you see, I'm not working by myself. This is all orchestrated by a higher beings or self or whatever, the universe. And there's thousands upon thousands of people on the planet doing what I'm doing. And there's thousands and thousands of others, millions of others who are doing other stuff that I couldn't even go near, but have a part in what I'm doing.
What's the best way you can describe whoever or whatever it is that you get your information from, like you're targeting information from? What is all that about? What is this source of information, direction, whatever?
It comes through various different levels. One of them that I can describe very quickly because I have a focus on both is the formlessness of oneness, which is part of all, right? Like the divine source.
The ultimate unity.
Right, right. That's outside of time-space. And it would be like a spark of that came in to do a certain work. But the reason it did, you see, because it has no attachment really to what really happens on the planet, if you think about it. And the attachment or the request came in from other beings and level people. Like there was a big call from the planet as an entity and light beings within the planet saying, help, right? To do this, we need help. And that call went out. And it wasn't just a planetary call, it was also from other beings around in the galaxy which will be affected by what happens on the planet, maybe not today, but maybe in 1,000,000 years. And that call was like huge, a huge call from sentient consciousness to have some sort of intervention on the planet to allow it in this timeline to allow it to make the shift that it's supposed to make, and it's trying to be stopped by the negativity. So it was a huge call, and that's why beings like myself can come into time-space and do this, because it's a response to that call. the planet has a trajectory that it's following naturally. It's an evolutionary trajectory.
You mean of like the culture, the civilization, the people who live there?
Everything.
Okay.
The plants, the rocks, the water, the people, the whole thing is one entity. Even though people think, oh, we are on the planet and we were put here, so we're not really off the planet. That's an illusion, because they're made of what the planet's made out of, physically speaking. Like the flesh is made out of the same material. It came from the planet, is being fed by the planet, is part of the planet. It's all an integrated one being with different levels of consciousness inside it, including the human collective and other collectives from other sentient beings that are on the planet and have been here for millions of years. And this planet as a unit has a trajectory of evolution. And what's been happening is that this particular juncture and in this particular timeline, there's forces who are trying to stop that evolution because it's not profitable for it to evolve in their view, right?
Okay.
And then we come into like laws of existence. For this to exist, you have laws. You have the law of free will, for example, that's being violated all over the place in this planet. You have the law of time-space. The trajectory that most people would experience of linear time is a law. And laws are kind of agreed rules that the being comes in to play a game.
The rules of the game.
Right. So if all of a sudden the rules are being violated, the majority of players can turn around and say, bring in a referee because this is an unfair game.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes. This is fascinating because many years ago I knew somebody who was doing something very similar to what you were doing, and he called himself an arbiter.
Yes.
And he referred to a number of other arbiters that he was aware of.
Yeah.
And this is a whole conversation we haven't had yet.
Mm.
He was the most wonderful man, and he said he'd get quite a kick out of the situation where he'd just roll up in a particular situation psychically, and then these nasty evil beings would just take one look at him and run. And of course, he'd always go and get them.
Right.
You know, there's a whole story that we can tell. But that was my first. See, this is quite interesting. This is my first experience with somebody like that, and I was instrumental in supporting him in attaining the abilities which he was then able to use to. I mean, he ended a war, for example. Single-handedly. It's a whole story about how he did all that. Back to where we were talking about you were coming in to handle a situation where rules had been violated,
right,
or where agreements had been violated.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, basically what's happening on the planet right now is extremely negative, and well, on a physical level, there's a violation of free will, because if you keep a collective asleep, what decisions they make is being influenced by those who are awake, and it's not really free will.
It's a bit like stopping people from voting.
Right.
Yes, sure.
Or, yeah, just taking their bodies over like they're sleeping and doing it for them, you know? So that's not really free will. So that's one of the things that's being violated. And then all the wars and all the other negativity, fear. The vibration of fear is what's the makeup or the building block of negativity. And the planet's being bombarded, the planet's humans, the collective, is being bombarded with fear by a very few people on the planet, right? Like the ruling elite.